things that seem to be pretty standard. One is there's a lot of emotional games and weeks, and two is if I look one more time and see somebody say that you're playing a team that's won 4 of the last 5, I feel like that's been an ongoing saga. But there's no question, came off an emotional game. I thought we put ourselves in position to win the game. Thought our players handled things about as well as you could. I think we didn't make the plays down the stretch, and I was disappointed in that, to be very honest with you. Watching the film, we had opportunities, we just didn't get them done. So tomorrow night will be another emotional night. Our first game back on campus with our fans, and make no mistake about it, this will never go away. As time heals, as they say, time heals everything, one way or another, and nor do we really want it to go away. We want to make sure that our students are respected, and we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and the ones that are still alive in the hospital, we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. So it's not like we're moving on. We are just moving on to the next game. Thoughts and prayers are remaining the same. In Indiana, it is one of the hotter teams in the league. Trace Jackson, kid that we recruited here a lot, and I've watched him grow as a player, and I think he took small steps for 3 years, and maybe he works for NASA. He just took a giant step for Indiana, at least, not mankind, but he took a giant step for Indiana. He's really improved his game with his ball handling. He's improved his game with his strength. I think he's improved his game with his passing ability, and he's willing to pass. I thought at one time he was a black hole. It went in and didn't come out. Now I think he's added different dimensions to his game. It's very hard to double. He's very hard to he can catch the ball anywhere on the floor and get to wherever he wants. And he's got as good a first step as any player at any position. So he's a load. Jalen Hood-Schifino has really come on since our game. He's been not quite as consistent, typical to every freshman at a big game than an average game. We did a very good job against him the first time, but he has definitely made progress and is a better player now than he was early. And Race Thompson just came back, one of the better power forwards in our league from his injury, and he too has gotten healthier, which has helped get them healthier. It's a group, when you double a guy like Jackson Davis, Kopp has turned into a very reliable three-point shooter. So they have a guy they can kick out to, and he's hit 12 threes in the last 5 games, so he is a very valuable part. I think they've got a couple of role players that play their roles to the nth degree. He's one of them. Questions?
You face somebody a second time. Sometimes it worked the first time, sometimes it didn't, so to speak. I'm wondering what your takeaway was from the approach on Trace, and it seems sort of like you're trying to pick your poison. You drank from both cups, so to speak, last time.
Very good way to put it. There's truth to that, so I think we're going to have to mix some things up. I don't think there'll be a steady diet of anything. So we'll try to mix them up a little, But really, Trace is going to get his 20 points. I mean, he gets enough touches, he gets enough opportunities, and he's a phenomenal player. So the game plan won't be just to stop Trace. We got beat last time because I think it was Bates hit 5 out of 6 threes, and I'm not sure he's hit that many since, but he did. And somebody else hit 3, I think. So, Galloway hit 3. So 2 surprise guys hit 8 threes, and that's the problem, as you say. When people want you to double, and you're giving up threes. People want guarded threes, then you're giving up 30 points by the post guy. It's a uniqueness in this league this year where we've got that problem with more than a few guys. You know, at Michigan the other night, McDaniels did a pretty good job, you know, although he got 7 or 9 of those in the beginning of the game. But it's usually the other people that you got to worry about. The great ones are probably going to get what they get. And I have no regrets on what we did at Michigan, because I think we did, you know, it wasn't kickouts that got us, it was some other things. But I think there won't be a steady diet of anything, to be very honest with you.
Now as you kind of move forward on the season, you talk about how, you know, the tragedy's not going away, but also you talk about returning to normalcy, and I'm wondering how you kind of balance those two things.
Yeah, I said that was going to be the hardest thing for me, is figuring out how to balance normalcy and tragedy. And you know, I'm not sure we'll ever do a great job of it. There's not enough time in the year left. You know, this isn't going away today, tomorrow. Unfortunately, for some families, it's not going away in a lifetime. And I hope we do enough here that it doesn't go away in a lifetime either. But as I said, unfortunately, the world moves on, and you have to learn how to do that. That's part of the process of being a young man or woman into, you know, getting older. And so, you know, what we've tried to do with our players is, yesterday we had a walkthrough and a film session, and still talked about it, because I think it'll be another emotional night tomorrow night, just being back home. And you know, who knows how everybody responds, but we've got to be able to do the things basketball-wise to take care of the business we've got to take care of, and then be there support-wise for players or people that deal with it in different ways. And I'm not sure I have a great balancing act for that. I'm learning on the run myself, you know. I will have a book for somebody now that goes through this later on in life, but I'm still working my way through it myself.
The rebounding issue, obviously, that we saw the other night, the matchup certainly hurt with the two bigs, especially when you had Joey Malik in there. How much of that do you think is kind of just the circumstance of how that went with the two bigs? Or is there a concern right now at all? I know there's been a few games here and there where the offensive rebounding wasn't great for their team.
You know, yeah, the rebound's a concern this year. You know, Marty has not rebounded the ball as well because some of the size in there. You know, it's one of those cases where I'm disappointed in one thing. We need to put more weight on Monty, you know, and so he gets banged around in there. But I think the more and more we can get Malik at the 3 and have maybe a bigger forward to go along with Joey, and I think you're going to see Jackson playing a little more, maybe, and Carson, and maybe even playing Carson and Jackson together, or Carson. And so, you know, now this team isn't as big. That was probably the biggest lineup in college basketball in that situation with the two bigs, maybe Arizona, I think. So, you know, we blame it on us. We weren't maybe ready for it, and yet I look back, and maybe if Howard doesn't get hurt, they don't, you know, do some of the things they did. So hard to say. We still had enough chances, even with all that. A minute 50 left, the game still tied, you know, and we did enough to win the game, no matter what they played. But rebounding is not a strength of this team that we have to get better at, because I think they got 12 or 15 offensive rebounds against Illinois, and that'll be one of the battle cries for sure. Is balancing that rebounding numbers out.
You mentioned about Jackson and Carson. I'm wondering, when you went back and watched maybe that first 20, 30 minutes of the game, what things did you see in terms of how those guys were working against Dickinson that can carry forward for you guys defensively?
Well, Dickinson's a load, and he's, you know, at 7'1", he's bigger. He's not as athletic as Trace, or as strong as Trace. But where I think Trace has made it harder on everybody is he's putting the ball on the floor so well, and he's very patient, you know, where early he was impatient. I think he's very patient now. He's what you, like I said, I've always pulled for the kid because I love the family and the kid. But I pull for him now, other than tomorrow night, because he's kind of what you hope college basketball is supposed to be, you know. Kid came in, a good player, got to be a pretty good player, a real good player. And then he made this monstrous jump between his third and fourth year, you know, where I think we get condemned for staying in school. And he's a kid that it's really benefited him. So I think it's been, you know, good for the game, but not necessarily good for Michigan State. But he's different than almost any of the other centers, you know, the kid from Illinois or even Edie in his own way, because he moves so well and he's so athletic, and in one dribble he can get from the top of the key almost to the rim. So we've learned some things. We think we've got some things to help, but I'm going to focus on Jackson, on Trace, but I'm going to focus and make sure those three-point shooters don't hit those 8 threes that those two guys hit.
Just as a follow-up, how much of those two, Jackson and Cooper, improved defensively though over the last couple?
Yeah, you know, I think you know, we always look at Jackson and we say, God, he's slow. You know, you watch him run and he's slow, but you know, he gets a lot done, and probably more and more. You know, whether he gets up on ball screens enough yet, you know, that's taking some time. It took Marty time. That is still in the works. Jackson is a better offensive player than any of them, and Carson's a better defensive player because he's got 6'11" body, he's got long arms, and he's got length, and he's got athleticism. So I think they both improved a lot. If I looked at a lot of things, you know, and it just continuously makes me wonder what it could be like if, you know, if we would have had all those guys together instead of piecemealing here and there. But maybe this is the time of year to get it all right.
Tom, I'm wondering, based on what you saw Saturday, and then you mentioned you had a discussion with your team about what Tuesday night might be like for an emotional night. How do you think those guys are handling their emotions based on your assessment so far?
You know, first of all, I thought they did a phenomenal job. Did we run out of gas at the end? Was that part of it? You know, was it emotional? I don't know. You know, were they drained? I don't know. You know, as I talk to different psychologists and people that I have for the last week, you know, I think I told you this, that everybody says, you know, everybody handles it differently. That's one. But the other thing is that, you know, you probably know your players better than some professionals can help them. And so I've done yesterday was a lot of time with a lot of different players. But, you know, athletes are macho people. You know, sometimes arrogant people, but some of that is needed to be successful. And the one thing that was that first speech I gave to him. In fact, I said it at the vigil. You know, I cry. You know, I show my emotions, good or bad. I'm not afraid to, but it's taken a few years probably. Most athletes do not show their emotion like that, especially in a sad way, because it's like male testosterone, you know, like we're supposed to be, you know, so tough and handle every problem. And, you know, the toughest guy in the world can't handle these problems. It has nothing to do with strength. It has nothing to do with toughness. So I just try to tell them it's okay to vent. It's okay to, you know, be upset. It's okay to communicate about it, you know. Don't be afraid to tell me how you feel. But that's all a lot to do in a couple of days, you know, and adjust to that when they've been kind of the other way for most of their lives. So we're working on it. It's been good. I mean, our guys have been great. Our people around here have been great. You know, everybody's done their job the best they can do it. Some of it is time heals. And that too is different for every individual. And I have to be there to support that and yet push. That's the balancing act that we talked about earlier that you asked me. Kyle, how do you do both? If I had that answer, I'd write a good book, but I'm working on it.
There's no question what they did on Saturday was very touching at the Chrysler Center. So I'm just kind of curious what you guys have planned for tomorrow night in terms of maybe what you might be doing pregame, or if you could let us in on what you guys are going to do.
Well, I would let you in if I knew. The one great thing about our people here, and I think it was the same down there, Juan, I'm sure there'll be some things that go on, but they know that I got enough on my plate, and so I have not been involved in the pregame or the game situation on that. I'm sure I'll get told it as it all comes together, but I wouldn't hide it from you. I really wouldn't, and if need be, I'll try to find out. I just hope that the kids that we lost, the kids that we still have, the kids that have been through it, I hope we honor them all and respect, what each and every one of them, how they feel. But I've said it, and I'll say it 1,000,000 times. I said it that night of the vigil. Being alone is not the answer. Some people could think it's the answer. To me, it's never the answer. That's why, teammates on a team have to help each other. We're all teammates now of a campus and a community, and we have to help each other. And I think the more time we spend around each other, the better. Not being away. I know there's going to be protests and things I'm vehemently against, because I think we need each other to comfort each other and to help each other through tough times. So hopefully it'll be respectfully great.
When you write that book, the last 7 days of your old chapter, one.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster, to say the least, because in that time you got the Michigan State, you want to call Lou Brockney himself and come up with the greatest speech known to mankind, and then you got the dad in you that you think of it from a parent standpoint, and all the parents, and that's what I told you that the night before that game, like I've done a couple other times here in the past. I figured out what I was going to say. I tried to, whether we win or whether we lose, because a win would have been great for Michigan State. Make no difference. The parents in that hospital trying to fight for those kids' lives, and for the ones that were lost at the funerals that day. And a loss is in the same boat. So, yeah, it's been figuring out how to balance that, figuring out how to handle that, has been something that I can't say I'm going to be better for in the future, because I hope it never happens again in the future. But I was very unprepared for it at the present, and I think with the help of a lot of people, we did the best we could do. And I want to reiterate something that I said that night. The situation wasn't the reason we lost the game. We lost the game because we didn't do the things we needed to do. And I don't want sympathy for anything, because sympathy should go to the people. I don't want to be taken off the hook for anything, because we played well enough to win that game and didn't do it. But yeah, the last 7 days will be a hell of a chapter in anybody's book. My book would be small compared to the parents that lost their kids, and the ones that are fighting for them, it would be very small. But it will forever I told my son the day of the game. We were warming up at 1 o'clock. We were just kind of going through our shoot around that day. And I said, this will be a day you'll never forget. Dramatic, truthful, pick and choose. My opinion, it'll be a day I'll never forget. And there's been a few in my lifetime that, as they say, for me, know where I was when John F. Kennedy died. Know where I was in 9/11. Know where I was when I got the news of what happened here. Know where I was the night of that game. There'll be probably a dozen in your life that you'll never forget. I just made sure he knew he should remember this day and try to do everything he could do in his power to make sure one of those days never happens again. Yeah.
Another topic I'm not sure how much you're dialed in with right now, but it's still a reality, is the Minnesota game that got lost. I know there's a lot of things up in the air in terms of when, if, all that. Like, do you have any clarity yet at this point in time?
I don't. As of right now, I don't. The best clarity I have is that they are trying their hardest to work it out, and the schools have been great. Ben Johnson's been unbelievable. I think Rutgers is involved. But the best I've heard so far is that last week we'll play Tuesday, which I think is a 9 o'clock game, come to think of it. Thursday, Saturday. And that's when we got to play. That's when we'll play. That's not etched in stone, though, and it's not even it's the best I've been given.
You mentioned something the other night about that sort of smaller lineup that you went to and hoping they could make Michigan pay on the other end and being unable to do so. And I'm wondering, obviously that's a group with James injuries and leaks that you haven't been able to fully explore throughout the season. I'm wondering how much hope you still have for that group as a group that can offensively create problems for other people down the stretch.
Well, I still think that's very possible, but in that game, Marty got in foul trouble too. We didn't do it, if I said it that way, we didn't do it to try to exploit it on the other end because we were scoring enough. We did it out of necessity, to be very blunt, honest with you. And at least we wanted the most experienced players on the floor. And, things got to still happen. Kobe's got to hit a shot that he fumbled and hit it. And the ball's got to bounce to the right place to get the rebound. There's a lot of things that got to happen. But I do think that with most teams, that lineup could be still utilized, as you said, up until the last week and a half. Malik wasn't practicing all the time, so we have not spent a lot of time on it. Those are all things that we're still trying to find our team, with 2 weeks left, and that's okay. I think some teams last year found their team with 1 game left, and it worked out for them. So I still got a lot of faith in this team. I think I have a lot of faith in my staff. What I don't have a lot of faith in is where the country is right now as far as teams. You look at the Big Ten, there are so many teams that are 8-7, or it's just amazing. You watch last night's game with, Sam Hoiberg plays 32 minutes in a game, and an unbelievable job. It keeps proving its point. Talent doesn't always win. Players that play, and I enjoyed. All I could think of is his mom and his grandparents, because when we played there and I started, their other son, how proud they must have been that night. So it's a crazy league, but you might see some of that lineup, certain games for sure, and but we do got to practice it a little bit more.
Focus was understandably tough the other night for all the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Not that tomorrow won't be emotional because you got the first home game. And I hate to even ask about focus. You got students that are going to their first classes today. But will it be easier in a basketball sense to focus in this game than perhaps in that game, or not?
Yeah, mean, you're pinching pennies on that one. It's, you know, I mean, that is our rivalry game, but this is our next most important game. And I said time will heal you, not 2 days. You know, it's going to take more time than that. And hard to say how our students will react to everything. You know, it's students have been so good, you know, at the way they stayed in place and did the things they were supposed to do that night. That doesn't always happen on college campuses. And yesterday, there was an incredible amount of people on this campus. A lot of parents came up, I didn't know everything. My son went to it, but I trying to do my day job a little better, and so I was here. But I said it was an incredible happening on campus, you know, and that's my whole point, you know. I hear about people wanting to be away. I understand why. I beg and plead that people get back to normal as fast as they can, and the ones that need help, let's help them. And the ones that are ready to get back, let's make you guys helpful to the rest of the people, because there's nothing like the people next to you. Nothing. I believed that my whole life, you know. It's united we stand, as they say. And I think tomorrow night, I don't know how my own players will handle it, you know, but I'm sad that I have to be a part of that for the reasons of what happened. I'm honored to be a part of that, to help bring some normalcy to these kids that have been through so much in the last 3 or 4 years, and so much in the last week. So that's going to be the way I'm going to approach the game, and I guess I'll see y'all there. Thanks.